Welcome back to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. You search Locked On Sports Atlanta. Make sure you're checking out all the shows here on Locked On ATL. That's our Twitter handle, by the way. It's Hitting Hard with John Chuckery, ATL Day Ones, Jarvis Davis, and Tanisha Batiste. Our Braves postcast after every Braves game, along with Locked On Falcons and Locked On Hawks. It's all right here in one of the newest hotspots for Atlanta sports, Locked On Sports Atlanta. Over 2,000 subscribers on YouTube in a real short amount of time. So keep it up. Tell a friend. We certainly appreciate all of the love and support, and you guys sticking with us each and every day. All right, I want to pivot here, and we'll get to the Braves coming up after we hand out some shovels of wisdom next. But I wanted to get to the mess that the Arizona Cardinals have created. In fact, that was a shovel earlier in the week with their contract that they gave Kyler Murray, a $230 million contract. And then it was leaked out that there was a independent study clause where they forced Kyler Murray to study 4 hours of film per week. And this was an addendum in his contract that if he didn't do, he was going to be considered in breach of his contract. I told you when it happened that it was going to end badly, and it's only getting worse. The idea that you needed to put that in your contract and force a quarterback to do film study speaks volumes to what you think of your quarterback. If this is a quarterback who doesn't understand the game and needs more film study, who doesn't understand how to read defenses and needs more film study, then what the hell did you just pay him $230 million for? Like, that's the biggest question the Arizona Cardinals have to ask. And then if you're going to give somebody $230 million, treat them like a damn adult. You don't give that kind of money to kids, to babies, to non-mature folks. If you were worried about how his work habits was, his work ethic and everything else, then you don't give him the contract. But once you give him the contract, you owe it to him to treat him like an adult, like he deserves it. And so there's already going to be acrimony between Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. Well, after this came out, there was, I guess, a public backlash, and I guess maybe the internet forced the Cardinals to do what they did, but they have ripped that addendum to the contract up. The Cardinals said in a statement, after seeing the distraction it created, we removed the addendum from the contract. It clearly was perceived in ways that were never intended. Our confidence in Kyler Murray is as high as it's ever been, and nothing demonstrates our belief in his ability to lead this team more than the commitment reflected in this contract. Yeah, that's a damage control statement, and we all see it. And Kyler Murray made his own statement. I'm going to let you hear it here in response to what people were reacting to with the addendum.
It's almost, to think that I can accomplish everything that I've accomplished in my career and not be a student of the game and not have that passion and not take this serious is almost, it's disrespectful.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Kyler. But there's a couple of things at play here. One, accomplishments and work ethic don't always go hand in hand. They usually do, but not always. Michael Vick had a hell of a lot of accomplishments in his time here in Atlanta. He openly admitted he never did the work, right? Accomplishment. First team to beat Green Bay in the postseason. Pretty impressive. Nice accomplishment. What did he tell you? I didn't do the work. He just went out there and played. Okay. There are a lot of people who can accomplish things without work ethic. So those two things aren't related. But the bigger thing here is this, and Kyler Murray shouldn't be responding to anything about his work ethic, because most of that stuff is done in the shadows. I mean, the people who truly work at things do it when no one's looking. And they don't ask for approval or applause or adulation or any of that when they're doing the hard work. They're doing the hard work because they quote, embrace the grind and they love it. But the Arizona Cardinals have now made a mockery of their starting quarterback. And now you've set this up to be a situation where every time something goes wrong, someone's going to respond with, should have been a film study. Maybe they should put that film study back in the contract. I mean, this was an awful decision by the Arizona Cardinals. And oh, by the way, if Kyler Murray needs to take some responsibility here, because if Kyler Murray didn't know that was addendum in his contract, he should fire his agent. If his agent didn't read through every single line of that contract before giving it to him to sign, he should be fired. And to knowledge, because at least that's what reports are saying, we've never seen this type of addendum in a contract before. So clearly, it wasn't new. I'm sorry, clearly it's new. It wasn't something that we've seen before. And with that, He absolutely had to know what he was signing. And if his agent didn't tell him about him again, all the more reason his agent should be fired. Like, these are things your agent is paid to read. I have an agent. He's paid to read every line of that contract, go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and look for every sort of trip-up thing you can, because that was one of the things that voids the deal. If he didn't do the film study, he would have been in breach of contract, and the deal could have been voided, and he could have lost all the money. So, I mean, his agent had to have read this. His agent had to have told him about it. And Kyler had to agree to it. Kyler had to agree to it. If Kyler had some headache with it, should have never signed the deal. But both of these parties are responsible for this. Although I probably put a little more blame on the Arizona Cardinals. Again, if you don't trust your quarterback and don't think your quarterback can handle the responsibilities, you just don't pay him $230 million. It's really, really simple. The Cardinals did this because they were scared. They were scared of life without Kyler Murray, knowing that getting the quarterback wrong, see Josh Rosen, leads to really bad things. The Cardinals were scared of being in a worse situation than the Atlanta Falcons. There's Matt Ryan. He's struggling. He had a bad year last year. Get rid of him. Oh, wow. We actually got worse. Now, again, the Falcons are a little bit of a different scenario. There were a couple of things at play there, but still, trying to find another quarterback is really, really hard, which is why teams panic and don't ever want to let one go. The teams that are smart enough to let them go, guess what? You're going to end up being on the right side of this thing. More often than not, I think you end up being on the right side. It's not often that teams let quarterbacks go. That in and of itself doesn't happen, but it's even less often that they let a quarterback go and he ends up being better in the second place. Peyton Manning is really the only sort of name that pops into my head. Now, you could argue Kirk Cousins has been better in Minnesota than he was in Washington. I think statistically that's 100% fact. That said, a lot of people would say otherwise. But you don't see quarterbacks go on the move all that often. Yes, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Yes, Tom Brady has been better or have been very good in Tampa, and New England has regressed a little bit. But when you're saying Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, you're talking about two of the, depending on who you ask, 5 best quarterbacks in NFL history. Those guys don't grow on trees. And let's see how Russell Wilson does in Denver. But again, I can't even get over the mess the Arizona Cardinals have created with their starting quarterback. This doesn't end well. There cannot be a whole lot of faith there if you put this addendum in the contract, because you knew you were putting it in there. And you took it out because of how bad you made your quarterback look and how bad you made your organization look. And people rightly called it out for what it was. It was BS. You're putting a film study addendum in for your quarterback. What does that say about your quarterback? What were you intending it to say, Arizona Cardinals? Do you mandate that for any of your defensive linemen? Do you mandate that for wide receivers? You did it for your quarterback because you wanted an out, possibly, if you needed it. Right? You wanted an out if things went sideways. That's what this was all about, if you ask me. But they just executed it really, really poorly. All right, speaking of executing poorly, Braves at the trade deadline, not executing at all. What's going on with that? Another move was made, another player off the board. We'll tell you about that coming up next, right here on A to Z, on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts, search Locked On Sports Atlanta.